You're the first minister, as you mentioned, to attend these pre-summit talks. You're also the first minister from this cabinet to show up on the international stage. I just wonder what the overall message is that you bring today.
Well, I think there's a number of messages. I think, it's a broader message than just climate change. I think the message is Canada's back internationally, that we understand that we need to be playing a constructive role on the world stage. We need to be working with our global partners. And then certainly when it comes to addressing climate change, that's a huge priority of our government. As you know, I'm the first Minister of the Environment and Climate Change. And that sends a big message that our government takes this extraordinarily seriously. And it's certainly a different approach from the last government, where I think that sometimes they had difficulty talking about climate change. And so, this is really important. It is important to be there with my counterparts internationally so that we can help play a constructive role in very, very important discussions. We need COP21 to succeed, and I'm certainly here to do whatever I can to ensure that Canada plays its role in ensuring its success.
Mm-hmm. Specifically on climate change, obviously that's the reason you're here.
Yeah.
The question, obviously, for many Canadians is what you plan to do with the targets that have already been submitted on behalf of Canada, in the name of Canada. What's the plan for those?
Yeah, well, so, I've been minister, now it's for just a short period of time, and COP21 is in 3 weeks. We've demonstrated, and our Prime Minister has been very clear, that this is a huge commitment of ours to reduce emissions. He's coming with the provinces and territories. We will be at the table, looking to play a very constructive role towards an agreement. And we've committed that in 90 days after COP21, that we are going to be sitting down with the provinces and territories to come up with a solution. And that solution would be having a national solution where we would have a national target. We would have, we were going to be, having price on carbon. And we're going to be reducing our emissions. And this is it's really important. But, you can't do all of this at once. And we have to be realistic. Canadians want us to have a plan that we're actually going to achieve, and that requires some time. And, as we know, the last government, for 10 years didn't work together with the provinces and territories in a serious way. And so we're committed to doing that, and we're committed to doing it in the right way, which is me coming here in advance of COP21, and then, as I said, starting it off on the right foot with the Prime Minister, with the provinces and territories, because absolutely we need to be working with them if we're going to be serious about tackling climate change.
So in the interim, what happens to that target that's been submitted to the UN? Does it get thrown out? Does it get revoked or withdrawn? What's the status of that?
Well, the reality with the targets is we will be submitting, we have a chance to submit new targets. At this point, the focus of the negotiations is coming up with an international framework that, has progressive reductions in emissions. And so that's the focus here, to get this framework. And then absolutely we're going to go back and look at how Canada is going to meet its obligations under the framework, which obviously will include our emissions.
I guess in my sort of untrained opinion,
Mm-hmm.
it would seem to me that if you're coming with the message that there's going to be a reduction in emissions, that it would almost necessitate the revocation or withdrawal of what was submitted already. So just to be clear, so it's going to be left as it is essentially until there's a new plan? Is that?
Well, as I said, we've come in, it's only 3 weeks, and we've committed to coming up with a plan with the provinces and territories, and we're serious about that. If you're going to be serious about that, you actually sit down with them and you work out what the plan is going to be and how you're going to meet the targets. Because the last thing we need to do is come up with a plan where we haven't spoken with the provinces and territories, we haven't worked out how we're going to get it, and we just throw a number on paper. So we are very serious about this. As I said, the goal, COP21, we need an international framework. We need to bring all the major emitters in. We need to be, looking at an ambitious solution, and that's what we're going to be doing. And then Canada's going to do its role, because after, right after the conference, within 90 days, we're going to be sitting down and developing this Canadian framework and looking at how we are going to do our part. And absolutely, emissions will be part of that.
As you know, obviously more than we do, there's a great deal of optimism about the Canadian government's position and the seeming sort of embracing of the idea, even as you say, of climate change.
Yeah.
I just wonder how you're going to practically influence or convince those who are skeptical out there, who don't have more than promises or words to go on. How your presence, the Prime Minister's presence, how would you try to assuage some of the concerns of people who've been quite concerned about Canada's position for the last few years?
Well, I'm very excited to be here. I have a number of bilateral meetings, including with my French counterparts, the French foreign minister, other environment ministers, and I'm going to be playing an active role in the plenary session. I'm even going to make an intervention, which is very exciting, since I have only been on this file for a short period of time. But the plan is to show that we are committed to finding solutions, and the first way you do that is by being engaged and being at the table. And so we are actively at the table, even though it's such a short period of time, but it's a commitment of our Prime Minister's, a commitment of mine to be here, to listen, to look at how we can play a role in finding solutions. We're not there yet with having an agreement, but we're getting close, and I think there's real opportunities. And if Canada actually shows that it's serious, that it's back, that we understand that the science behind climate change is real, that we need to be taking action, that we need to be looking at what measures we can take to reduce emissions, I think that will send an extraordinarily strong signal. And we've already seen that that people are excited that we're here, and Canadians are excited that we're here. I'm excited to be here, so I'm really looking forward to meeting with everyone and showing that we are serious and that Canada is back on the world stage.
May I ask about the intervention? What are you planning on saying?
Well, you have to stay tuned. I can't tell you what the intervention is before I do it. You know what? I think it's this kind of the same message that we're making here. And I think that it will be well received, because I think we'll be talking about, some things that we may not have said before, showing that we take this really seriously.
You said that, and you said it again today, that Canada wants to play a constructive role. Could that possibly include financial incentives for some of the developing countries, which, as you know, is one of the biggest sticking points? Is that on the table for Canada? You know what?
Absolutely, we need to be supporting less developed countries. So our plan is, that we are going to look at solutions to support them. And, we need everyone to be doing their part, and we have to make sure that we're enabling everyone to do their part.
Could that include more money?
Well, that's one of the things that's on the table, so we will be looking seriously at that.
Okay. And this conference that's coming up in December has been called the Last Great Hope. Do you see it like that? Is it that big a deal, do you think?
I think it is really important. I think a lot of effort has been put into to making it a success. I think it's just important that everyone is at the table, that we have the major emitters at the table, that we have less developed countries at the table, and that everyone demonstrates that this is, the biggest challenge, one of the biggest challenges of this century, and we all need to be there to find solutions. And I'm an optimistic realist. I think we will get there. I think it will require a lot of work. And countries will have to, look at how they can contribute to this. But I am optimistic that we will get a solution, and we'll signal to the world, we'll signal to Canadians, we will signal to everyone that we are going to take the measures that are needed to limit the increase in temperatures to less than 2%. And that's important. I've got 3 kids. I worry about this. I'm in politics because I really, really believe that we need to be tackling these big problems. And so I'm just so pleased to be part of this. My government is, it's a huge priority. Our Prime Minister, it's a huge priority for him as well. And so we're going to do it.
Have you seen the draft?
Pardon me?
The 55-page draft?
Well, you know what? I have seen a part of it. Obviously, I'm still being briefed by my officials. My background as a lawyer makes me, want to really understand the details. But as I say, it's not just the words on paper. Those are absolutely important. But it's also, are we tackling the big issues? Are we getting closer to a solution? And I think we're getting there. We still have work to do. So as I said, I'm looking forward to doing whatever I can at this pre-COP meeting with my counterparts to see how we can help find a solution.
How do you, just to turn to you for a moment, how do you think your background, which you know better than anybody, will help contribute to bringing together maybe an agreement?
So my background, I've done a number of different things. I was involved in pretty difficult international negotiations involving a treaty between the government of East Timor. I was working for the United Nations then when East Timor was in the lead up to its independence, and the Australian government. So I certainly have experience in international negotiations. I also started a charity, I co-founded a charity called Canadian Lawyers Abroad. And we worked on international issues, tough international issues. We worked with government partners, we worked with NGO partners, we worked with academic partners, we worked with Indigenous partners. And I think that that's what's really important here. It's the idea that we need to build these relationships. It's not just government that's going to find solutions. Business needs to be involved. And so I think that the ability to talk to different people and look at how we can, despite our differences, we can come together and find solutions, I think that's certainly a strength I bring. And as I say, I also have a personal commitment. During my campaign, I rode my bike. I had a red bike, and I launched the first bike signs campaign. I believe that we have to look at a more sustainable way of living, and that is critical to the next generation, to my kids. So I think that personal commitment will also, it's also going to help drive me to work really hard to find solutions.
But you are going to be facing quite a challenge, considering what's happened at the department, the elimination of certain programs, the difficulty in actually reducing whatever the target that you come up with. You said you wanted your civil servants to give you fearless advice. Mm-hmm. What if they give you a pretty bleak picture on actually achieving some of these goals that you want to achieve? So
I'm not in politics because I think it's easy. I think it's really hard. But I have been very lucky. I've met many of the officials in the department, many employees, and they are working very hard too. And this is also, I think, a difference. Our government is committed to working with our public service. Absolutely, will I be pushing them? Yes, I will be pushing myself. I will be pushing everyone I meet to come up with innovative solutions. And I think this is the key here. We are not going to find this by just, sitting back and hoping that we're going to find, just come up with a solution. We are going to have to be innovative. And that means looking at business, talking to business. What can business do to help? The NGO sector, what ideas do they have? What is government? What are we able to do? What are the provinces and territories able to do? But it's the idea that we finally work together on this and we realize that we have a common goal. While we might have different perspectives, we can figure out, a way to get there together. And I have full confidence in the department. Yes, I think that there were a number of cuts, and I'm certainly looking at how I can ensure that they have, the necessary resources to do their job. I'm still staffing my office to make sure I have the necessary resources and expertise, but I have complete faith in them. And we have very bright people there who have been working on this file far longer than I have, who have great expertise, and I look forward to working with them and finding real solutions.
Last couple of questions. First is, despite what you've said and what you said today, there will be environmental groups, and there are ones who have said that this summit may actually be a missed opportunity for Canada because of the circumstances. So there's a government that's outgoing, there's a paper on the table that is no longer your position. You're going to come up with one, but that's going to be a bit later. So there's a time period that Canada seems to be missing because of circumstance. Would you agree with that assessment?
Well, I would say that, we're now trying to get an international framework. So I think we need to be clear on that. Absolutely, Canada has to be doing its part, and we are going to work exactly on the details of that post-COP. But at COP21, the goal is to have an international framework, and that's where we can play a role. We're now at the critical period. So yes, you can say if only we had been around, earlier, if only there had been a will by the Canadian government earlier. But I think in some ways it's good. we're here at a critical time, and I've already heard from some of my counterparts that they are so excited because we can create new momentum, because we are now going to be much more engaged, much more serious, much more credible, and that's going to give some incentives to others. And we can leverage that goodwill. I can be out there talking to people and saying, look, here we are, we're back, we're going to be doing a lot more to find solutions, and what can you do? And I think that's a great signal, and in fact, at a really critical time. There's a lot of work, obviously, that goes in advance of these meetings, but we know a lot of work goes at the very end to get the solutions. So you know what? It may not be ideal, but I think we've got a real opportunity to now show we're back, and then convince others to do a bit more too.
So last thing, how would you describe that role? Is it role model, negotiator, facilitator? What's Canada's role then?
You know what, I'm going to do all of those. I'm sure my Prime Minister is going to do all of those. It's not just being at the table, it's on the margins. It's having conversations. It's looking at, what we can bring to the table, and it's all of those things. Diplomacy is really important, but it's not, it's not wagging your finger at people. It's actually, having conversations, on the margins at the plenary, and looking at all the different tools we have at our disposal to come to a serious, ambitious agreement that is going to make a real difference in the lives of people around the world.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Great, thank you.
Thanks.